Welcome in live from the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome in to Twin City SEC Football Media Day coverage here on WKXX. Appreciate Twin City Used Cars for bringing you our coverage all week here from the College Football Hall of Fame. Chase Robinson with you as it has already been a busy day here in Atlanta. The commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, Greg Sankey, took the podium earlier today and gave kind of a state of the SEC address, and we'll give you a chance to listen to that here in just a little bit. Lynn Scarborough from Lindy Sports Magazine, he will join us as well. And again, we are with you till 4 o'clock today Central Time, so we've got 2 hours of great coverage on the way as we move through this afternoon. And one good thing about being here on Radio Row, we'll have great guests stop by and chat with us as well, Lynn Scarborough being one of those. And we'll have several guests pop in through the week, and so looking forward to that. But again, Brian Kelly also on the podium today. We'll give you a chance to listen to what he had to say. New LSU head coach Lane Kiffin will be speaking here momentarily, or he may be up on the podium right now. And then Eli Drinkwitz, Missouri head coach, will be speaking here at SEC Media Days Day 1. Now, tomorrow morning, Nick Saban will take the podium first thing. So we'll have lots of Alabama coverage coming your way tomorrow, which we'll be excited about. But interesting today with being the first coach on the podium being Brian Kelly from LSU. And so we'll have a chance to kind of get a glimpse of what's to come for that LSU football program as we listen to Brian Kelly. Really cool setup here at the College Football Hall of Fame. Radio Row located up on the second floor of the Hall of Fame, looking over the main media room. So if you've ever been to the College Football Hall of Fame, you know that there's what is a football field in a big room, turf field goal and everything. That's where they do a lot of the competitions and stuff, field goal kicking, that kind of thing here at the Hall of Fame. But that has been turned into the main media room where a lot of the newspaper reporters are set up, and that's where the big podium is for the press conferences. So that's where the coaches spent about 30 minutes in that room, and then we're right above looking over that in some of the exhibits up here in the College Football Hall of Fame. And let me just tell you, if you've never been to the College Football Hall of Fame, it is worth a trip over here to downtown Atlanta to check out some really cool exhibits. They have a new SEC exhibit, and we're going to try to get someone on from the Hall of Fame to tell us about what all you can do here. But really cool and a great setup they have here, and they're utilizing the Omni Hotel, which is connected here to the Hall of Fame as well. There's some media rooms and some press conferences going on in those areas as well. But Radio Row located right here in the College Football Hall of Fame. We've got the YouTube live stream going right now, so you can check us out there on YouTube Live. If you want to comment, interact with us, that is the best way to do that this week. So on YouTube, just search for WKXX Live, and you should see our live stream coming through there. And so we're excited to be bringing you live coverage this week. And again, it's brought to you by Twin City Used Cars all week long. We appreciate Twin City for sponsoring our SEC Media Day coverage here from downtown Atlanta. So here's what the schedule looks like this week. Again, like we said, it was Commissioner, LSU's Brian Kelly, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, Missouri, Eli Drinkwitz today. Tomorrow, we will see Alabama. They'll be the first team up, so we'll hear from Nick Saban tomorrow as well, as the Vanderbilt Commodores will be here in the morning session tomorrow. Then the afternoon session will consist of Mike Leach and the Mississippi State Bulldogs, Shane Beamer in South Carolina tomorrow. So it's Alabama, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, South Carolina for your Tuesday. On Wednesday, it'll be Arkansas and Sam Pittman to start things off Wednesday morning. Georgia and head coach Kirby Smart, defending national champs, including quarterback Stetson Bennett. They'll be here on Wednesday. Also, the Wednesday afternoon session is Florida and head coach Billy Napier and Kentucky head coach Mark Stoops will be here on Wednesday. And then Thursday, Brian Harsin and Auburn will start things off. Tennessee and head coach Josh Heupel. And then Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M will end media days on Thursday afternoon. So you will hear from all the coaches and some of the players here as we move through our coverage this week. And we'll get you ready for football. This is kind of the unofficial kickoff to college football season. And so really cool to be here and bring you the coverage all week long. We will grab a timeout here. We'll come back and we will listen in to what Commissioner Greg Sankey had to say this morning. So stick around as we continue our live coverage of SEC Football Media Days presented by Twin City Used Cars as we are live from the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. We'll be right back with more. along here from the College Football Hall of Fame. We heard Commissioner Greg Sankey take the podium earlier today, and so we have a chance to listen in now to Commissioner Greg Sankey from this morning.
I began not with Mr. Spicoli's quote, but with a reference to Bob Dylan's "The Times They Are A-Changin'." And I've never lost sight of that reality. I'm not sure we all understand what is intended by those lyrics or conveyed by the phrases that the wheel's still in spin. But times are changing more rapidly than ever. And you saw some of that play out this spring. So at our Destin meetings, we started with a small meeting of our head football coaches. And I went in with a very clear focus on a message, probably not the message that you thought I would communicate, maybe not the message they thought they'd hear, but one that was clear and direct. As I walked into the room, I learned that someone had tweeted our head football coach seating chart. And the trending topic on Twitter became not the Destin spring meetings, but look at this football coach's seating chart. But as we refocused, here's what I told our coaches. It is never going to be the same, but it doesn't have to be the way that it is. We're dealing with complex problems that won't be solved by complaints, by accusations, by finger pointing, or by offering simple solutions. What is needed now is collaboration, deep thinking about real world solutions, and everyone participating in the conversation. The outcome, and I shared this in real time, was we had some of the most in-depth conversations with full participation through our spring meetings that I've ever experienced. And that includes not only our football coaches, but our women's basketball coaches, men's basketball coaches, our Student Athlete Leadership Council representatives, our athletics directors, faculty representatives, senior women administrators, and ultimately our presidents and chancellors that week. Each group recognizes that it's never going to be the way that it was, but it doesn't have to be the way that it is. And in that conversation, we recognize that all too often, what sounds like an easy solution to these complexities fails to consider the impacts that those easy answers have on many other matters. And frankly, in college athletics, we're here because we've either pushed aside some of those conversations and decisions, or we've dealt with the easy solutions rather than the complexities that account for the full breadth of outcomes and consequences. But in this environment, I'm proud to say, in my view, and I think in the view of our entire membership, the Southeastern Conference is stronger now than at any other time in our history. We're poised to grow to 16 members on July 1st, 2025. This expansion keeps the SEC in contiguous states, which supports a reasonable geography among like-minded universities and keeps us confident that fan interest will continue to grow in our communities, in our region, in this country, and literally across the globe. There's no sense of urgency in our league, no panic in reaction to others' decisions. We know who we are confident in our collective strength, and we are uniquely positioned to continue to provide remarkable experiences educationally and athletically, along with world-class support to student athletes. It is a compliment that people from all across the country and all across the globe want to be a part of the Southeastern Conference. We understand our fan base in our region. We have an outstanding relationship with our media partners, effective in the fall of '24, Disney, ABC, and ESPN, with a focus on how we continue to strengthen the SEC network. And I appreciate the talent, those of you behind cameras, those working in production that we never see, in directing and coordinating to make what we do this week the best TV of the summertime. As you know, when we go through this change, we are considering how to schedule. And so some of those decisions were made in Destin, but our football scheduling model is still under consideration. We had deep and productive conversations in Destin. Those conversations actually began back at our meetings in August. And when we concluded our discussion in Destin, we had a focus placed on a single division model with the ability to accommodate either an 8-game or 9-game conference schedule. And I'll wink and say we could even accommodate a 10-game conference schedule. I see all of you look up. I just wanted to see if you're paying attention. So that's actually not our focus. We ended, though, with the understanding that more questions needed to be answered, including understanding the general timeline and the issues that need to be addressed as we think forward now about the college football playoff. We have to dig through a tie-breaking procedure. So we have over a quarter century in divisions, and we understand all the nuances about how to break ties, but we have to dig a bit deeper there with this single division concept in front of us. And we want to understand the impact through the use of analytics on bowl eligibility for our teams who are growing their programs and college football playoff access dependent on the number of teams that might be included. And so there are a range of possibilities being considered. We have time to make a decision, and as you've seen before with us, particularly in the last few years as we dealt with some difficult issues, we're going to use that time to inform our decision making and not be subject to an arbitrary deadline. The national issues, though, go beyond the Southeastern Conference, beyond the college football playoff, beyond conference membership changes, and include important conversations about the future of the NCAA and its ability to be effective at leading the overall collegiate athletics enterprise, and how we effectively support young people who choose on their own to engage in name, image, and likeness activity. Last July, on that list of issues we've seen over the last year, the NCAA's Board of Governors issued a press release that included these words, quoting, "The Special Constitutional Convention is intended to propose dramatic changes to the NCAA Constitution and to reimagine aspects of college sports so the association can more effectively meet the needs of current and future college athletes." And that same press release included statements like college sports must quickly adapt. This is not about tweaking the model we have, and we cannot go on as we are. At the end of that constitutional effort, what's really changed? You need to ask yourself that question. Did we need that effort to get at some of the Division I problems? I would submit not, but someone is correct in that statement that we cannot go on as we are. In October, the NCAA announced formation of the Division I Transformation Committee, and I'm proud to serve on that committee with co-chair Julie Cromer and 19 other individuals who have spent an enormous amount of time trying to sort through the difficult issues we have. The press release announcing creation of the Transformation Committee referenced the complexity of issues in Division I. That observation was spot on. There is a complexity of issues that doesn't lend itself to the easy button and not necessarily to immediate resolution. And so those issues include the need for a meaningful membership process, dealing with enforcement and infractions issues where college athletes face uncertainty and penalties related to actions that may have taken place when they were in junior high or elementary school. We have a rule book that simply grows and grows and grows. We have a governance process that has key committees and councils populated by participants who rarely, if ever, speak, and who are being asked to make important national policy decisions when they may not have that same authority on their day-to-day work context on campus. We have a bureaucratic process that leaves issues languishing for months or for years. Again, it's correct. We can't go on as we are. We're making progress on those issues. In August, the Division I Board of Directors will receive a report which won't solve every problem, but will deal with issues around enhancing the student-athlete experience, modernizing the transfer rules, dealing with that rule book and trying to reduce it, and refining that infractions process with a focus on bringing matters to conclusion in a timely manner. And then as we look at the fall, we're going to have some difficult issues around membership. That issue was not created by the 5 conferences labeled the autonomy conferences or by FBS. It was assigned to the Transformation Committee by the Division I board. We're going to have to determine how to make effective decisions in Division I. And there are incredible disparities around revenue, around expenses, around support, and around expectations in this division. It makes it difficult to ensure the presence of shared values and common purpose around supporting athletics programs. We also need to make sure we enhance the experience for student athletes in NCAA championships. What's happened before can never happen again. I don't expect that will be easy, but it's important and will play out through the fall months. I did not mention name, image, and likeness because that's been reserved by the Division I Board of Directors. And on May 9th, you saw a statement from the board that I think was helpful. The question is, what's happened as a result? We need clarity from the NCAA National Office on what's happening and what will happen under the NCAA Division I Board of Directors directive. It's a difficult issue, subject to the onset of state laws that came into effect last July, and since that time, some of those same states have pulled back from those laws because it's in the state's competitive interest to do so. It's exactly what we warned about dating back to 2019, that a patchwork of state laws was the most ineffective way to approach name, image, and likeness. And here's our view. We need a clear, enforceable standard to support national championship caliber competition and national championships themselves, like the College World Series, the Final Four, and the College Football Playoff National Championship, and every other national championship. So there is a connection and a common basis for competition. Our student athletes, we just had a Student Athlete Leadership Council meeting. They asked us for clarity and for uniformity and for institutional support of their name, image, and likeness efforts. A national standard would mean that high school juniors and seniors and their families don't have to sort through dozens of different state laws or institutional policies where state laws don't exist. It's an unfair way to treat young people making a college decision. And a common standard would allow them to have clarity around the rules and policies that govern their own decision-making and activity. Our football coaches were unanimous and unequivocal at our spring meetings when they discussed name, image, and likeness, that booster activity should be completely removed from the recruiting aspect of their work. Our young people deserve consumer protection to ensure commitments they make do not create long-term entanglements and points of exploitation that reduce or eliminate their future earning potential. And lastly on this list for now, there's an absence of oversight for those described as agents. These aren't agents as we've come to know them over time, or NIL businesses that approach young people and families directly with offers with no transparency. That gap needs to be addressed, and the unregulated marketplace calls for action. The NCAA is limited in its ability to govern this space. To put state universities in conflict with their own state laws is an impossibility. And litigation limits the extent to which the NCAA can actually act. And that's why the continuing identification of Congress as the opportunity to set a national standard remains important. We did have conversations that if there's not a national standard, we need to explore if we can have common state laws among our 11 current states, eventually to be 12, to support healthy name, image, and likeness activity. Now rests firmly on our agendas. The SEC will not be complacent, even with the knowledge that we're in a position of strength. Now's the opportunity and the time to continue to support our student athletes, and to the extent we can do more, we actually do more. We must take the step forward to make sure the experience that's present today is there tomorrow and for decades to come. One of the great things I'm able to do is visit with leaders of today, our presidents and chancellors, athletics directors, and other key campus leaders, and the leaders of tomorrow. Those are the young people on our teams, which is why, despite the difficulties, despite the challenges, knowing the successes that are present, I'm confident that the best days of the Southeastern Conference still remain ahead. So with that, Kevin, I'll turn it to you, and we can entertain some questions, and we'll see how I do with the answers.
Thank you, Commissioner. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Jack, Jake, and Preston, we will get a microphone. So we're going to start right over here in the middle. Ron, go ahead, Ron. Please give your name and affiliation.
Yes, Ron Higgins, Tiger Details. Greg, do you anticipate maybe Texas and Oklahoma coming in the league early ahead of time?
That's not up to me. That's about the relationship between Oklahoma, Texas, and the Big 12. We are focused on the addition being effective July 1st, 2025.
Okay, we're going to go down here on to our right, second row.
Richard Johnson, Sports Illustrated. Greg, with what's happened in the country the last few months, in addition to it being an election year, do you think that that makes it even more difficult for Congress to do something to make a clear, enforceable NIL policy?
Go back, Richard, to March, and I made a list in a meeting of matters present, you know, a war in Ukraine, the economy, Build Back Better that was introduced and not moved, and the differences that exist in Congress. And we have a midterm election coming up, and things that have happened over recent weeks and months have just added to that. The reality was, when I had that conversation in March, I wasn't looking to necessarily this Congress to be the solution, just because of the timing. We've had conversations with leaders from both sides of the aisles, and we'll continue to do so, because regardless of what's happened recently or what happens with the election, we need a bipartisan solution for this national concept to move forward. And if we don't, then we're going to be left not simply creating conference rules. We're going to have to deal with state laws that vary in our region, and that was actually part of our conversation in Destin as well. But the focus will remain on a national solution, and Congress is the venue for that option.
Okay, we're going to go right over here on the left, about 4 rows back.
Greg, John Sokoloff at WCBI TV in Columbus. You mentioned one of the bigger issues with that single division model was the tiebreakers and figuring out that stuff. What are some of the other issues when y'all think about finalizing that single division format?
John, you didn't even have to introduce yourself, because I was in Omaha and heard you ask a question in those press conferences leading up to the Ole Miss National Championship. So welcome to Atlanta. The list of issues, so tiebreakers one, the number of games and what that means from a scheduling standpoint, the imbalance around 9 games versus the comfort with 8 games. What happens with non-conference schedules, and we have a requirement that 9th game right now be among an Autonomy 5 type opponent. How do we dispose of or maintain that particular policy? The impact on bowl eligibility and college football playoff access, I mentioned. When I go through 6 different teams having won national championships in the last 25 years or so, no one comes close to that number. So the level of competition here, while people want to be a part of it, we're attentive and sensitive to that. Just to be clear, nobody from TV is saying do this or do that. This is a conversation and a decision to be made among our conference membership.
Okay, we're going to stay in the same section, 3rd row back. Kirk.
Kirk Bowles from the Austin American-Statesman. Greg, do you sense a lot of support for a model with 3 permanent rivals, or anywhere close to a consensus on that? And is there any interest in expanding beyond 16 teams right now?
The first question is, it's under consideration, Kirk, and there are limits on the number of options available for 3 permanent opponents based upon the number of games. 9 makes that more practical. If you remember, I had 2 points when we expanded that I wanted to be front and center. One, is that we engage in blue sky thinking, just let's look at the big picture. And the second is we rotate our teams through campus as frequently as possible, so we don't go 12 years between visits. And so those two have guided us. That last one relates to the number of games, number of permanent opponents, and how many times you can move people through cleanly, and that's exactly the point of conversation. Embedded in my remarks is we're attentive, we're engaged in conversation. The great news for the Southeastern Conference is that people call and say, hey, you're doing something really special, and they kind of hint around the edges. As I went through, we know who we are. We're confident in our success. We're really looking forward to the expansion and being at 16 teams, and don't feel pressure to just operate at a number. But we'll watch what happens around us and be thoughtful but be nimble.
Commissioner, we'll go to our right, second row.
Charles Odom with the Associated Press here in Atlanta. Following up on what you just said, you said you don't have a sense of urgency or panic in reaction to what others are doing, but in looking at what others are doing, does it affect your receptiveness to those calls that you say you're receiving from others? Do you see this heading toward a conglomeration of super leagues, and do you have to be proactive to be at the front of that?
Well, somebody will write that a smart aleck guy, we are a super league. I mean, when I walk through the recitation, this is a super league. So as I visited with our presidents and chancellors and ADs, now understand the timing is this news broke June 30. I did not gather that group until the next Wednesday. I wanted to make sure I learned what was actually happening. But also I didn't want a story like on Friday, the day after, oh, the SEC presidents are gathering, and then you have this ripple effect of they're going to do something. And so we wanted to be patient and wanted to communicate. Again, we're comfortable at 16. There's no sense of urgency, no sense of panic. We're not just shooting for a number of affiliations that make us better. Could they be out there? I would never say they're not. I would never say that we will. We're going to be evaluating the landscape. I'm not going to speculate. And I actually am watching a lot of this activity operating around us, more so than impacting us directly.
Okay, we're going to go right back down here in front, third row. Bob.
Hey Greg, how you doing? Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat. This is kind of a multi-part question. I was curious, what lake was it where you were on vacation? And did you get to take any vacation? Did you have any inkling what the Big Ten was doing? And do you think Texas and OU trump USC and UCLA when it comes to adding teams to a conference?
I'll start at the end, yes. I'm not sure we want to use the word trumped all the time these days, but be careful about that. We're in contiguous states. It's a southeast quadrant. I do have a few letters about what southeast mean, but we are in the southeast quadrant of the United States. Those two additions actually restore rivalries. You know, the Texas-Arkansas game last year was pretty special, but that goes back a long way. Obviously, Texas and Texas A&M rivalry will be like our in-state rivalries across the league. You have Missouri and Oklahoma that are a quarter of the Big Eight that are now part of the Southeastern Conference, and the opportunity for Arkansas and Oklahoma to play regularly. I think that's right. That's who we are. Those fan bases get it. One of the very first calls I had, it's like, hey, we watch how you've made decisions in the Southeastern Conference and how you want to achieve as universities and athletically, and we want to be a part of that. Absolutely, that's right. Did I have an inkling? I'll be honest with you that about 18 months ago, I said, here's some projections of what could happen, and those two schools were part of it nationally, but I didn't know that this was about to happen on June 30. No, not at all. As I look and try to project what takes place and guess, that type of movement was somewhere in my thinking, but not at that moment. And it's where I grew up, in Skaneateles, New York. Since I began not with Mr. Spicoli's quote, but with a reference to Bob Dylan's, the times they are a-changing. And I've never since I began not with Mr. Spicoli's.
That was Commissioner Greg Sankey as he addressed the media earlier today, and pretty interesting, strong comments from the commissioner. We'll talk about those, break that down. Lynn Scarborough from Lindy's Sports will join us as we continue our live coverage from Radio Row at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. It is Twin City SEC Football Media Day coverage presented by Twin City Used Cars on Fox Sports 102.9. We will be back to the College Football Hall of Fame with more in just a moment. All right. Okay. We are back here live from the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta for Twin City SEC Football Media Day coverage presented by Twin City Used Cars here on Fox Sports 102.9. As we make our way through this Monday afternoon, we are with you here in Atlanta until Thursday, so lots of great coverage of SEC Media Days coming your way over the next few days. We heard from Greg Sankey earlier today. That's what you just heard. And, you know, with a lot of times you don't get as much as you did today from Commissioner Sankey. And so it was really good to hear some of his thoughts on some of these issues that are going on in college sports right now that are specifically related to football. And when you think about Greg Sankey, the job he's done leading this conference, being a voice not only in SEC football, but he's been a huge voice in college football, period. And so it's it was good to hear his thoughts, and I think kind of what he opened up with and what he told the coaches when they were in Destin. He said it's never going to be the same, but it doesn't have to be the way it is. And I think we've, gathered that college football is never going to be the same, but we don't have to embrace how it is right now. And I think that was really good from what he said, and was really impressed with how he's leading the coaches in that specific area. He was also asked on the Oklahoma-Texas, will we see them before 2025? And, as he said, that's not up to him. That's, that's a little bigger than his payroll. That's between Texas, Oklahoma, the Big Ten, or the Big 12, rather. So probably will be in 2025 when they join the conference. I don't expect it to be any earlier than that. But, what impressed me a lot about Sankey today is he was asked tough questions, and he answered those questions. And I thought that was really good of him. And we really got a state of the SEC and in what's to come. So really impressed with Commissioner Sankey in his State of the SEC this morning. Also hearing from Brian Kelly, from Lane Kiffin as well. So we'll try to get you that audio to listen to as well as we move through this afternoon. Lynn Scarborough from Lindy's Sports Magazine will join us as well coming up in hour number 2. Try to grab some other guests to join us throughout the show as we are set up live here on Radio Row. And if you missed me earlier in the show explaining kind of where we are, we're in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame for SEC Media Days. If you've been to the Hall of Fame, they have this a turf field set up with a field goal and everything. They do some games and competitions on when you come to the Hall of Fame. Well, that has been turned into the main media room where all the coaches will come through. The audio that you heard from Commissioner Sankey was from there. A lot of the writers set up in there. We are set up right above it, looking over the glass windows here on the second floor of the Hall of Fame. we can see down there, that's where Radio Row is. A lot of radio stations broadcasting this week here, and the College Football Hall of Fame has been a great host so far in housing, setting up tables for all these stations. Don't have an exact number, but there's close to 40 or 50 radio stations set up here at Radio Row this week. So it's going to be great content, great stuff coming your way this week. And again, tomorrow, lots of Alabama coverage as Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide are up first tomorrow at 9:05. Saban will take the podium, and Bryce Young will be here. Jordan Battles will be here, and Will Anderson will be here. So lots of Alabama coverage coming your way tomorrow. And then Auburn is up on Thursday. Brian Harsin takes the stage first thing at 9:05 on Thursday morning. But we'll have coverage all week long here from SEC Football Media Days here at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. Let's grab another break. We'll wrap up hour number 1 when we come back, set the stage for what's to come in hour 2. So stick around as we continue live Twin City SEC Media Days coverage on WKXX, Fox Sports 102.9. More to come from Radio Row in a moment. Yes, that would be great. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So I'll have another break before the top of the hour, right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I would. Okay, yeah. I'll come back and talk for just a minute and then pitch it back to break. Okay, sounds good. Because we need to get breaks in. Yes. Okay. All right. All right. Welcome back in live from Radio Row at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Twin City SEC Football Media Day coverage presented by Twin City Used Cars here on WKXX. As we're going to be here all week, hanging out with you in the afternoons, bringing you all the best SEC content, and we will have much more to get to in hour number 2. We'll talk LSU, we'll talk Ole Miss, we'll talk Missouri. Those are the 3 teams up here at SEC Media Days today. We heard from Commissioner Sankey earlier this hour. Lynn Scarborough from from Lindy's Sports Magazines. He will join us coming up in hour number 2. And so we've got a lot to get to over the next hour. We've got the YouTube live stream going on, so you can watch us on YouTube this week. And so you just go to YouTube, search for WKXX Live, and you can pull that up and watch our live stream here from the College Football Hall of Fame as well. And, of course, we're coming to you on Fox Sports 1029, WKXX.com as well. So we are excited to be here. And again, Alabama coverage tomorrow as the Crimson Tide will be in town, and then Auburn on Thursday. Georgia on Wednesday, so the defending national champs will be up there on Wednesday. Get a chance to hear from Kirby Smart, but excited about the players that Alabama's bringing tomorrow. We get to hear Bryce Young, the Heisman Trophy winner from last year. We get to hear Will Anderson, and also Jordan Battles there for the Crimson Tide coming up first thing tomorrow morning. So we'll let you hear those here on the show tomorrow afternoon. So excited about that. The press box coming up after us today. Going to have a chance to work with those guys tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, as I'll be on the press box with Mike Grace coming up tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday as well here from Radio Row. So excited about joining in with those guys coming up tomorrow as well. So lots of cool stuff coming up here on WKXX this week. And again, no Braves baseball as the All-Star week begins today with the Home Run Derby. Of course, Ronald Acuna in the Home Run Derby. You got the All-Star game coming up tomorrow night with 5 Braves in it. So Braves fans will have some baseball to watch, just not the Braves. They'll be back in action Friday against the Los Angeles Angels there. And, of course, we will have that for you here on WKXX. We will jump to a break here, and when we come back, we will get hour number 2 underway. We'll kind of look at the schedules of LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri. What can we expect from those teams this year? We'll talk with Lynn Scarborough from Lindy's Sports Magazines. All that is up ahead as we continue live SEC Media Day coverage presented by Twin City Used Cars on Fox Sports 102.9. Hour number 2 is next. Sounds good. Welcome back in. It is live coverage from the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. Chase Robinson here with you as we get hour number 2 of the show underway. As again, we are live here from Radio Row at the College Football Hall of Fame to get this SEC Media Days week underway. Day 1 is still going here as Eli Drinkwitz has just taken the podium. They're down below us, we're on the second level of the College Football Hall of Fame, down in the turf football field they have here in the building. That is where the main media room is, where the coaches are up speaking. So Eli Drinkwitz going down below us. And we'll talk Missouri football later on in the show. It was LSU, Ole Miss, and Missouri up today. And but we'll start looking at LSU as we get the hour going. Lynn Scarborough from Lindy Sports Magazines is going to join us as well and talk some SEC football with us, what they had in the Lindy Sports Magazines this year. So we'll talk with Lynn coming up in just a little bit. But to kind of look at LSU and what they kind of an outlook on the LSU Tigers this year. Of course, the big thing for LSU, I think, is new head coach Brian Kelly coming in to lead the program there in Baton Rouge. I think it's going to be he's a good football coach, and I think that was a big draw by LSU that a lot of people, including myself, were not expecting when the news came down that he had been hired. I think that was, one of those things that really took us by surprise, but a very good hire by LSU to go out and get the guy. And he's stepping into a program that, yes, they won the 2019 national championship, but, I don't think they're, necessarily, the LSU of old, and I think they have a chance to be that. I think about these, rivalry games with LSU and Alabama over the years, games that have, gone down to the wire and have been really entertaining. Well, the last few years, even right before the 2019 season, before Joe Burrow came, and those were really good rivalry games, and it kind of lost it. It lost it for a while, and so I think he has a chance to get it back going there for the LSU Tigers, and I think kind of where to start with LSU is their quarterback situation. Miles Brennan, Jaden Daniels. The two guys and you got Garrett Nussmeier in there as well, who's been a part of the program there in Baton Rouge, but you've got to think it's going to come down between Brennan and Jaden Daniels to kind of lead the program. The roster in transition, Miles Brennan returning from injury, Jaden Daniels transferring from Arizona State. Brennan sat out last season with a football-related broken arm. He broke his arm. It was not due to football. But when you look at kind of their difference and what to expect from these two guys, Jaden Daniels, he's a rollout read option kind of guy. You got Brennan, who's a pocket passing quarterback. So you've got two different styles that they'll be able to look through, to look at, and see what fits that offense best. You've got to think kind of Miles Brennan may have the favor over Jaden Daniels. I could be wrong in that, but I would think Miles Brennan is going to be the guy for that. But we'll see. I think he could be really good for the offense if the offense looks similar to what we saw in during Brian Kelly's tenure there at Notre Dame. Mike Denbrock is the offensive coordinator for LSU this year, coming with Brian Kelly there. So it'll be interesting to see how he runs the offense. But I would, if I had to say today, Miles Brennan probably the starter. Of course, you can't base anything off this, but he was the quarterback that attended the Manning passing camp. So he's got a lot of talent. Again, last year he didn't have a chance to prove himself with the broken arm there, but I expect him to be the starting quarterback next season for LSU. You know, there are a few holdovers from that 2019 national championship team. A lot of them are gone. You look at last year, 6-7. That's not a good LSU program. And so Brian Kelly's coming in. He used the transfer portal, and LSU's got a good roster. When you just go up and down the roster, it looks good. They've got some names on there. They've got some good athletes. But they're in the SEC West. Can they compete for that 2-3 spot in the SEC West? I think that's going to be big for LSU to be able to do that this year. I'm trying to decide where I'm going to rank them. The media has an opportunity to rank the SEC teams, and that'll come out on Friday, the media's picks. Most of the magazines, I'm looking at the Lindy Sports Magazine right now, has LSU finishing 5th in the West. I think that's kind of a good spot. I think Brian Kelly can get them to relevance, though, where they are competing, for the 2-3 spot. I don't think that they will surpass Alabama anytime soon, but I do think LSU has a very high ceiling. So LSU just one of the teams. Now we're up today at SEC Media Days. Ole Miss up as well. We'll talk some Ole Miss football, some Missouri football coming up. But on the other side, we will talk with Lynn Scarborough from the Lindy Sports Magazines. He will join us on the other side of the break, so stick around and stay tuned for more live Twin City SEC Football Media Day coverage as we continue live from Radio Row at the College Football Hall of Fame on Fox Sports 102.9. Yes. Fox Sports 1029 from SEC Football Media Days. And we have got Lynn Scarborough joining us now. Lindy's Sports Magazine's got my college football magazine here. Love reading these every year. And Lynn, always great to be here at SEC Media Days. We appreciate you stopping by and talking with us.
I appreciate you letting me come by. Gadsden is close to my heart. I know you and I were talking off the air. That's my father's hometown. Back in if there's anybody in the audience that's old enough, there was Scarborough Drug in downtown Gadsden. That was my Uncle J.B. had Scarborough Drug. My dad graduated from Gadsden High School in 1932.
Wow.
Played football, was president of his class in 1932. So that's I've had family, there for a long time. So Gadsden is Etowah County, Gadsden High School, dear to my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're excited to be having the Lindy's College Football Report on our station. When college football season rolls around, we're excited you're part of that, and so we're excited to be an affiliate and have that in Gadsden.
Well, we appreciate it greatly. We have not had an affiliate in Etowah County and the surrounding area. This is our 10th year to have the show. We started with 12 stations in 2 states. Maybe it's 13 stations in 2 states. We had 103 stations in 14 states last year.
Wow.
But God has really blessed us.
Yeah.
And this has been a really good thing. We enjoy doing this. We appreciate getting to put out the content, and we very much appreciate being able to add y'all station as an affiliate.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to carrying that. That'll be Fridays at 5 o'clock, 5 p.m., leading into our high school game night show. You'll hear the Lindy's College Football Report here on Fox Sports 102.9. Well, Lynn, we're here at SEC Media Days. Greg Sankey took the podium earlier today for kind of the state of the SEC. What stood out to you about what Greg Sankey had to say this morning?
A lot. This is, when Commissioner Slive, had to step down because of his cancer, Commissioner Sankey has been doing this now since 2015, and I've heard every one of them. And there was more meat to what he said here. One part of that, of course, Chase, is what was going on. There's so much going on. But I thought he was very upfront. That's his nature. He didn't duck any questions. And he talked about a lot of things that are, I guess you say controversial. There's certainly, he talked about whether or not to go to an 8 or 9 game schedule when Texas and Oklahoma come in. He said that he did not think they would come in before 2025. There's been some talk about would that happen. That doesn't mean it won't, but I think he honestly told what he thinks is going to happen. He talked about the pitfalls of having a 9-game schedule. I favor a 9-game schedule, but he really gave you some stuff to think about today on what it could do. He talked about the expansion of the playoff. Right now it's 4. I've been a proponent of an 8-game schedule. I've written columns about that twice, but I don't like the idea of a 12 because somebody would have to have a bye. Yeah. And I don't like having byes in the championships like that. The College World Series doesn't get a bye. The basketball tournament doesn't get a bye. So the NCAA doesn't. So I don't like having a bye for a national championship. But he gave some reasons why you might consider a 12 team. I thought he tackled head on the name, image, likeness, the NIL, and gave a lot of things to think about on that, a number of which I'm sure we've already thought about. But I think that with that, Chase, and as well as the transfer portal, I think that it may be like it's done a lot of time in politics and in economics and in sports. They may have looked at something and said, this looks like a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's do it, without really thinking through all the ramifications that would come from it. Just take he talked about transfer portal, about the need to get some consistency with that and have some regulations to go by on it. It affected us this year.
Yeah.
I mean, we normally print our first publication that first weekend in May, which is right around May the 1st. We didn't this year. Part of the thinking, not totally, but part of the thinking was the fact that the 1st of May was the deadline when you had when players had to announce if they were going to go in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so by doing it the next week, we knew which players were going to stay and which ones were going to go in the portal. The problem is we had no idea where they were going.
Yeah.
And so there's not a tail end on that. I suspect that there's still players out there
yeah.
that have gone into the transfer portal who have not yet declared to another school. And maybe some of them aren't going to get a chance to go to another school. It wasn't smart for some of these guys that did it, to do it. But when you're trying to make picks, we talked off the air about what our picks were, and we'll talk about it here in a minute on the air. But as you're making the picks, it's hard to know if you don't know who their players are going to be.
Right.
And you've got a number of teams in the SEC this year that may be playing with quarterbacks that this time last year were on other SEC teams.
Yeah.
And so those players, they're going to know the tendencies of the other team. They're going to know who's good on defense. They're going to know their play calls and all that kind of stuff. So it's a real challenge, and it's a challenge to be able to pick, who you think's going to win, and those players have a real impact on how championship things are going to come out. This name, image, likeness thing it's easy to say these guys can't work and they need spending money and all that kind of stuff, and giving a stipend and all that. I've been for that, but I don't know. I don't have insight to what the Manning boy got at Texas. I suspect it's more than enough to do your laundry and take a girlfriend to the show.
Yes.
And there's no way that the left tackle that's guarding his backside and keeping him from getting a broken neck is going to get $10 million.
Yeah.
He may not get $10. So
right.
There's equality to it, and like the commissioner was saying, are you going to be able to traverse? Every state has different laws that affect contracts, that affect what kids under the age of 21 can do, what you can do for amateur sports, what you can do, and the different states have their own rules. Well, we've got 11 states in the SEC. We'll have 12 when Oklahoma comes in.
Yeah.
What if the state of Alabama has one set of rules, and Alabama and Auburn are recruiting guys from Georgia, Mississippi, or Tennessee, and those states all have different rules, and you're looking at we got to match somebody's name, image, likeness deal. You got to. Are you going to be operating with one hand tied behind your back?
Yeah.
And he said, the commissioner said that he thinks we need to have consistency. Well, I agree with that. But how are you going to implement consistency, and how are you going to enforce it?
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of things going on now that hasn't gone on in the past, and it certainly impacts college football. But Chase, bigger than that, it impacts all of amateur athletics.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because
these NIL things, it's basketball and it's baseball and it's every sport. I mean, if I understand it correctly, gymnastics or track or whatever can do the same thing. What's going to stop a company that makes pommel horses and bars? What's going to stop them from going and doing sponsorship with the gymnastics performance?
Yeah.
Just as so it really impacts. And we had the World Games in Birmingham.
Right.
I'm sure some of the people in our audience right now probably went to the World Games, and it was great. Birmingham. I've been from that area all my life, and I kind of poo-pooed it off when Birmingham got there. I said, my God, Birmingham's getting the World Games. It's only been the United States one time ever in its history. Birmingham did a absolutely magnificent job. People that have gone to it, that CBS Sports had on television, they did a great job.
Yeah.
So good for them. But that's amateur athletics, and it was a fine line when they started having the dream team in basketball. That's in the Olympics, and Charles Barkley and Magic Johnson certainly didn't qualify as amateurs.
Yeah.
So it's been a fine line for a while, but it's just a whole lot of things going on. The thing I took most out of Commissioner Sankey this morning was it's a fine line, Chase, between arrogance and confidence. And I thought he walked it really well.
Yeah.
Because he said, somebody asked him about Southern Cal and UCLA joining the Big Ten. He said, well, we don't feel like we're compelled to do anything else now. We're at 14 teams. I don't see us being anything but 14 until Texas and Oklahoma joins. We don't have to react to anybody. And he's right. Yeah. SEC's the lead dog. And I think he realized, he said, we know who we are. And he did it in a way that didn't come across to me as being haughty and arrogant. So I appreciated what he had to say.
Yeah, we're talking with Lynn Scarborough, Lindy Sports Magazines. You mentioned, got your picks in this edition of the Lindy Sports Magazine. Who y'all got winning the SEC, and maybe who's a team that you may think, could be up there towards the top by the end of the year?
Well, we got Alabama at number 1 in the country and number 1 in the SEC. We got Georgia number 1 in the East in the top 5 again. They certainly could be in the running. We didn't stick our neck out on the limb too much on that. The second place though comes into a different matter. I think we got Texas A&M in the West. A lot of that is the hype that they've gotten because of their recruiting classes and because they beat Alabama last year. They're a good team. They got more 5-star players this year in the recruiting cycle than any time since they started rating players. So they've got, at least on paper, the best recruiting class in history coming in. But they got a quarterback situation you're not sure of. And this is a team that lost 4 games last year and beat Alabama.
Yeah.
If you beat Alabama, you ought not to have lost that many ball games.
Yeah.
And Texas A&M people, for the money that they're paying to Jimbo, I think they're ready to have something to show for it other than, we beat so-and-so. They had never beaten. They've been in since 2013, I believe. And, 2013 is when they came in, I believe. And they had never beaten Auburn and Alabama in the same year. It was 2021.
Yeah.
And so finally they at least got off their back, the monkey off their back of beating Alabama and Auburn in the same year, and they lose other games. So I think a lot of pressure is on Texas A&M. The team that I like in the East is Kentucky, other than Georgia. Now, I don't think they're going to win it, but when we do picks, you look at senior leadership, particularly at quarterback, and you look at the schedule. Who do you play? Where do you play them? And people forget the schedule part.
Yeah.
Mississippi State played in the SEC championship one year. Missouri played in the SEC championship, I think, twice. They didn't play because they were necessarily the best team. They played because of their schedule. And they had relatively easy – nobody in the SEC has an easy schedule. But they had a relatively easy schedule. Kentucky this year, they have Levins.
Will Levis.
They're Levis. Coming back at quarterback, okay? If he's not injured, he's a very good quarterback. They got Rodriguez at running back. And I suspect that when we do the voting tomorrow, whenever we do it, I suspect that the two first-team running backs in the conference are Rodriguez and Tank Bigsby at Auburn. And so when you've got 2 experienced leadership guys like that at the skill positions, then your schedule, you would say that LSU, Alabama, and Auburn are the 3 historical, traditional powers in the SEC West. They don't play any of them. They don't play A&M, who we've got ranked to the top 10. They don't play a resurgent Arkansas. They play Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Now, that's not putting them down. We probably got Ole Miss and Mississippi State fans in the audience. But if they were in the Eastern Division or if they were in another conference, but they're not. So they play those 2 teams. They do have to play Ole Miss on the road, which that's going to be because Ole Miss got a great offense.
Yeah.
But Kentucky returns a really solid defense. They play Georgia at home. They do have to go on the road to Tennessee, and they go on the road to Florida. So those are trap ball games for them. But their non-conference games are Youngstown State, 2 teams from the MAC, one of which didn't win but 3 games. And in order to fulfill the restriction on SEC teams about playing Power 5 opponents, they play Louisville. Well, that's their in-state opponent. Louisville hadn't won half the games in 2 years.
Yeah.
And so when you've got Louisville as your toughest non-conference opponent and you play them at home, and you've got 3 other teams that probably they could beat with their substitutes.
Yeah.
And you don't play Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, or Arkansas. If they don't win at least 8 games, I'll be shocked. And the thing that I think is the biggest important for them, Chase, is the mindset. Because it used to be, for most years, that Kentucky would be able to tell you, like I got people, somebody said to me today how many days it was to the kickoff of the football season. I'll guarantee if there's a Kentucky guy walk by here, he may not know that, but he's going to tell you how many days till they have midnight blue magic for the basketball team.
Yeah.
All right. In the last several years, they won 10 games last year. I think they won 8 or 9 the years before that. Stoops and his staff has got that team thinking they can win. And as you know, what you think's going to happen, if you go out on the field and you're thinking you're probably going to lose and you're thinking, oh, God, what can we do not to lose? You're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
But now they go out thinking, oh, it's Florida, we'll beat them. Oh, it's Tennessee, we beat them 3 out of the last 4. Yeah, we beat Florida down in Gainesville last time. Yeah, we put 40 points on so-and-so. If you think you can win, and it's a solid staff, they appear to be doing it the right way. I haven't heard any kind of scandal coming from it. And you got people up there thinking they can win. And the Eastern Division is not as strong.
Yeah.
You know, South Carolina, a lot's going to depend on Spencer Rattler. What's going to happen with him coming in as quarterback. But I could see Kentucky having a really nice year, another 8 or 9 win season.
Yeah, I could too. Definitely, those were good points on that. Lynn Scarborough, Lindy Sports Magazines, joining us here on Radio Row at SEC Media Days. Lynn, got to jump to a break. Really appreciate you coming on with us and talking this afternoon. Looking forward to having the Lindy's College Football Report on WKXX this fall.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate it too.
Thank you so much. We'll be back with more live coverage presented by Twin City Used Cars from SEC Media Days in Atlanta on Fox Sports 102.9. Yes. Okay. This is the 20 break, correct? All right. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. Yes, that's the thing. Yeah, we'll see. We are back here at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Radio Row, set up here on the second floor of the Hall of Fame, looking over the turf field they have here in the Hall of Fame. That is the main media room. Eli Drinkwitz of Missouri has just finished up. We heard LSU kind of to start the day off as far as teams. Greg Sankey gave his state of the SEC. We heard from Ole Miss, and Missouri finishing up day one here of 4 in Atlanta at SEC Media Days. And I appreciate Lynn Scarborough from Lindy Sports Magazines joining us live here last segment, and we'll continue to bring you great guests throughout the week as they stop by here on Radio Row. We heard from Lane Kiffin earlier, who is always very entertaining, and he was once again this year. And it's funny because the first question asked to him, and he actually joked about this, was that the question was about Nick Saban. And he said, of course, the first question asked to me is about Nick Saban. And it was, but he kind of downplayed the expectations on his team coming into this year. Which I don't necessarily think they're going to be as good as they were last year. They're still going to be a good team. They're going to win games. When you look at kind of their trend of winning, you go back to 2019 was not great. Each year they have continued to kind of progress. Last year had a 10-win season, which was huge. They finished 6-2, second in the West. Got big wins over, Texas A&M 29-19. They got an Egg Bowl win. They beat Tennessee. They beat Arkansas, who's really an up-and-coming program there. They lost to Baylor in the Sugar Bowl. But I think this is a good team. I mean, they start off the season against Troy. Then they host Central Arkansas. Then they go to Georgia Tech for a game on September 17th before coming back home to host Tulsa. Then they get into an SEC slate with Kentucky. October 1st, they take on Kentucky, and I think that could be a really good matchup as far as seeing where both of those teams are. And I'll be looking to see kind of what Ole Miss can do offensively against Kentucky, and how Kentucky can match up to this Ole Miss defense, because I think Ole Miss defense is going to be solid. You got defensive end Cedric Johnson. You got safety A.J. Finley. Those two guys are going to be solid. So I think Ole Miss's defense will be, decent. What can they do with Will Levis? And then Ole Miss goes to Vanderbilt. Then they'll come home to host Auburn. They'll go to LSU, go to Texas A&M, come home to host Alabama, go to Arkansas, and then host Mississippi State to round out the season. So schedule-wise, I honestly see them winning the first 4. Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, and Tulsa. Kentucky game should be pretty good. Getting a win over Vanderbilt, it's hard to tell where Auburn's at right now. I think that could be a decent game too, Auburn, Ole Miss. Same thing with LSU. I think Ole Miss can beat LSU. I think they can beat Texas A&M as well. I don't know if offensively they can keep up with Alabama. Arkansas is going to be really tough too for the Ole Miss Rebels, and then I think they can beat Mississippi State as well. But I think there's some questionable games just because we don't know a ton about LSU yet. They're picked to we don't know a lot about Ole Miss yet. They're picked to finish 4th in the SEC West, according to Lindy Sports. I think they could be ahead of Texas A&M. I kind of think possibly they could finish second in the SEC West, just depending on how Arkansas is. I think there's a lot of questions to be answered on Arkansas as well. So I think the ceiling is high for Ole Miss, and schedule is favorable, especially those first 4 games. If they can get those first 4 wins against Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, and Tulsa, I think that's a really good start for them to pick up some SEC wins as well. Against Vandy, against LSU, maybe Auburn, Texas A&M. But we have a lot to learn left about this Ole Miss team. And who's going to be the quarterback, I think, is the biggest question out there about Ole Miss right now. You want to say USC transfer Jackson Dart. You also have Luke Altmaier. But whoever steps into that position is going to, there's going to be high expectations. I mean, you're replacing Matt Corral. That's not going to be easy for whichever quarterback comes in. I mean, both have a lot of experience, which is going to help. I don't think the spring really showed, much clarity on that, but that's going to be the quarterback position is going to be big for them. So it's, kind of who's going to be the guy that the quarterbacks go through, who's going to be that top receiver. Elijah Moore is going to be tough to replace as well. 76 catches, 1,028 yards, 8 touchdowns for Dontario Drummond. Jonathan Mingo may be their guy. He has 897 career yards, 7 touchdowns to his name, or somebody else will have to step up there in that receiving position. But I think that's going to be pretty big for Ole Miss, is to find somebody to throw to. Maybe a Danish Jackson, Jordan Watkins, Michael Trigg, several guys that they've picked up off the transfer portal could definitely be utilized in that position as well. The running game for Ole Miss, I think, is going to be pretty strong. I really like Zach Evans, who transferred over from TCU. I think he is an excellent runner, and I think we'll see a lot of him this season, no matter who's at quarterback. And even if they have to spend some time trying to figure out who can lead their offense well, who fits in well with Lane Kiffin's offense, I think their run game is going to be strong no matter what with Zach Evans back there. So should be fun to watch. And I think this is one of those rosters that Ole Miss, that Lane Kiffin kind of titled himself the transfer portal king in the offseason. It's really hard to tell what they're going to look like this year, just based off the fact that we have no idea what their roster looks like, what these guys are going to look like playing together. So Ole Miss has got a lot of question marks, but I still think nonetheless they're going to be a pretty good football team there under Lane Kiffin. We've got more SEC talk to come as we are live here from SEC Football Media Days. Our coverage brought to you by Twin City Used Cars here in our Twin City Live SEC Media Day coverage. Chase Robinson here from Radio Row at the College Football Hall of Fame. We will take a break and come back and get ready to wrap up day one here from the College Football Hall of Fame. More Twin City SEC Media Day coverage to come after this. Welcome back in to live Twin City SEC Football Media Day coverage, day one here at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. And we appreciate Twin City Used Cars for being our sponsor for this great event, making it possible for us to be here, to be broadcasting, and bringing you great coverage here from Radio Row at the College Football Hall of Fame. We are on the second floor here, and so far today we heard from Greg Sankey, Commissioner of the SEC. We heard from Brian Kelly of LSU, Lane Kiffin of Ole Miss, Eli Drinkwitz of Missouri to finish up day one. And tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., will be Alabama getting things started. Nick Saban, and along with quarterback Bryce Young, you got Will Anderson Jr., and you got Jordan Battles. All will be here representing the Crimson Tide tomorrow. And so looking forward to hearing from Alabama. We'll get some guests on to talk about the Crimson Tide with us as well tomorrow on the show. So looking forward to that. Auburn is on Thursday, so Auburn fans get ready for lots of Auburn coverage on Thursday afternoon show here from SEC Media Days in Atlanta. Talking about the Missouri Tigers, Eli Drinkwitz was just down on the main stage. They finished last year 6-7, 3-5 in the SEC. They were fourth in the SEC East. But you look at recruiting, Drinkwitz has signed 2 straight top 20 recruiting classes. And he's been able to supplement that roster with some pretty good transfers as well. But it really hasn't translated into wins. And that's what Missouri fans want to see, is those recruiting classes, those top 20 classes turning into wins. And, how are they going to do that? How are they going to get to the point where they're competing, you think? I mean, Missouri has a couple of trips of representing the East in Atlanta in the SEC championship. This year I think Drinkwitz has the roster of having that first winning record since 2018. But a lot of that, I think, hangs on the quarterback position. What are they going to do? Who's going to be representing them at quarterback? I think that's going to be really big moving forward for this team. And so we'll see what's to come there at Missouri. You've got, a couple of guys who are going to be fighting for that position at quarterback, and that is going to be where a lot of this hangs. You got Brady Cook, you got Tyler Macon. They both were working for it during the spring. And I think it was another one of those instances where we saw them, we saw their differences, what they can bring to the team, but it's going to be really hard to be able to specifically point out, yes, this is the guy who should lead this Missouri football program. So I think they've got a lot of learning left to do in fall camp. And, I think Coach Drinkwitz sees that, understands that, and that's kind of what you have to expect at this point there at Missouri. So, LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri all up today. Busy day tomorrow here at SEC Media Days. Let's grab a break here. We'll come back and wrap up this day one of Twin City SEC football media coverage presented by Twin City Used Cars. When we come back, we'll wrap up this Monday afternoon next. Yeah, we'll do all 4. Okay, that'll work. Did you say 2 minutes? Okay. back inside the College Football Hall of Fame as we are here at SEC Media Days and about to wrap up day number 1 of our live coverage. We will be back with you tomorrow. Appreciate you listening in today. Appreciate Lynn Scarborough dropping by, talking some SEC football with us. Lots of great guests tomorrow as it is Alabama Day. So we'll have some Crimson Tide folks stop by and chat with us. So looking forward to that as we continue here from Radio Row. And, it's great events like this. You come in here, just had a guy walk by and wave. You get to see folks you only get to see at events like this. I mean, a lot of folks in media and radio from all across the SEC, the South that you've met and stuff at these kind of things. You get to see them. It's like a big reunion a lot of times at events like this. So it's been great to see some folks out here. But, man, it's been a great first day. Learned a lot really to start the day from Greg Sankey and then from Brian Kelly, one of the new coaches on the block here in the SEC, and get to hear and learn a little bit of his philosophy and his thoughts heading into this 2022 season leading the LSU Tigers. And then, of course, you've got a chance to hear from Lane Kiffin and Eli Drinkwitz as well. So good day 1 here from SEC Media Days. And coming up next, Mike Grace will be along with the press box. And coming up tomorrow, I'll have a chance to sit in and be on the press box tomorrow as well. So looking forward to that here from Radio Row. Really great atmosphere and everything here at SEC Media Days. Lots of fans stopping by, getting coaches' autographs as they came in the Hall of Fame here. So thought that was pretty cool to see everybody here as well. And really appreciate you joining us for our live coverage. Much more coming up tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday as well. So we've got 4 full days, one of them almost in the books here from the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. But certainly excited, glad you joined us here on day 1. We'll have much more coverage coming your way tomorrow. And so stick around for that. Watch our Twitter page. We'll have some content coming to you on social media. And remember the YouTube live streams. You can watch our show live here from Radio Row. Got the live stream going as well, so you can check that out. Also there, just go to YouTube, search for WKXX Live. We'll also tweet that out on our at WKXX Fox Sports Twitter page. And you can check that out as well. That is going to do it for us here, day 1 from SEC Media Days. We will be back with you tomorrow from 2 to 4, live here from Radio Row at the College Football Hall of Fame. We'll hear from Nick Saban, Bryce Young, Jordan Battle, Will Anderson, all that tomorrow from 2 to 4. Hope you have a great rest of your Monday. We will talk to you tomorrow. This has been Twin City SEC Media Day coverage on Fox Sports 102.9, presented by Twin City Used Cars. We'll see you tomorrow.